You have done the meditation. You have visualized. You have repeated the affirmations until they lost their texture. You have done everything this space tells you to do, and something is still not landing. Not because the technique is wrong, because you have been treating consciousness like a traveler when it is actually a location. That is the shift nobody names directly, and it changes everything about how this works. Neville Goddard says it plainly in his lectures, but most people in this niche read past it. He does not say go toward the wish fulfilled. He says live from it. From. That single preposition is the entire mechanism, not movement toward a destination, occupation of one. The Mandukya Upanishad describes 4 states of consciousness: waking, dreaming, deep sleep, and the 4th, Turiya. Turiya is not a place you travel to. It is what you already are underneath the other 3. The Vedic seers did not teach transcendence as locomotion. They taught it as recognition. Neville and the Upanishads are describing the same thing. And when you see them as one, the practice stops being effortful and starts being inevitable. But here is where it gets interesting, because what we just established means that the popular teaching of quantum jumping has the mechanics precisely backwards. The manifestation space loves the phrase quantum jump. It borrows from physics the idea of discontinuous change, an electron that disappears from one energy level and reappears in another without traveling the space between. That much is accurate. But then the teaching drifts. It turns the jump into an action, a doing. Something you perform through enough focus, enough feeling, enough sustained visualization, and that framing carries a hidden assumption so fundamental most people never examine it. It assumes you are here, and what you want is there, and your job is to cross the distance. The Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6, dismantles this directly. Krishna is speaking to Arjuna about the nature of the self, what the Gita calls the Atman. And what Krishna makes clear is that the Atman does not move, it does not travel, it does not become, it is. All apparent change is the movement of Prakriti, nature, circumstance, the outer world, around a self that remains fixed as pure awareness. Neville Goddard arrives at the same conclusion from a different direction. In his 1954 lecture series, he describes consciousness not as a vehicle that carries you toward your desire, but as a field that, when properly inhabited, causes the outer world to reorganize around it. He uses the word revision, not projection, revision. You are not sending a signal out into the world hoping it returns as a matching circumstance. You are revising the inner record, the assumption held in consciousness, and the outer narrative follows because it has no other option. This is why Alan Watts, reading from the Vedanta tradition he translated so precisely for the Western mind, kept returning to one image: the eye cannot see itself. Awareness cannot step outside awareness to observe itself changing. There is no vantage point from which consciousness performs the jump. Consciousness simply is, and where it rests determines what manifests as experience. The quantum jump is not a leap. It is a relocation of the center of gravity of your awareness, and that relocation does not happen through effort. Here is the mechanism with full precision. The Vedic concept you need is chit, the second term in the Sanskrit formulation Sat Chit Ananda. Most teachers translate the full phrase as being, consciousness, bliss, and move on. But chit does not simply mean consciousness. It means the self-luminous knowing quality of awareness, the fact that awareness is not a passive container but an active, self-aware light. And light, by its nature, illuminates wherever it rests. Neville understood this without using the Sanskrit term. His entire teaching on the I Am rests on this same insight. I Am is not a statement of identity. It is a statement of pure, luminous, locationless awareness. Before you add anything to I am wealthy, I am loved, I am free, there is just the bare fact of awareness knowing itself. The jump happens when that bare awareness shifts its resting place, not through visualization, not through repetition. Through assumption, which Neville defines as the acceptance, felt in the body, of a state is already true. The Yoga Sutras of Patanjali name this in technical language. Sutra 1.2, Yoga's Chitta Vritti Nirodha, the cessation of the fluctuations of the mind stuff. Most people read this as a meditation instruction. Stop the mental noise. But Patanjali is describing something more precise, the vrittis, the fluctuations, are the constant movement of awareness from one assumption to another. The practice is not silencing the mind, it is stabilizing the assumption, planting awareness in one state and allowing it to root there. That is the mechanism. Your current results are not the product of your conscious desires. They are the product of your stabilized assumptions, the states your awareness rests in by default, below the level of deliberate practice. This is why the technique keeps producing inconsistent results. You visit the desired state in a meditation, your awareness touches it, and then it returns home, to the assumption that has been running underneath everything, the one you have been reinforcing for years without noticing. You are not failing to manifest. You are manifesting your actual assumption with perfect precision. This is where the practice changes. The question is not how to generate the feeling of the wish fulfilled. You already know how to do that in a session. The question is how to make the desired state the default location of your awareness, the ground you return to, not the destination you travel toward. Neville Goddard identified the most precise moment for this work: the hypnagogic state, the 90-second window as you cross from waking into sleep. He called it the state akin to sleep. Patanjali calls the equivalent threshold pratyahara, the withdrawal of the senses from external objects, the moment the outer world dims and awareness becomes purely self-referential. In that state, your nervous system cannot distinguish between a vividly assumed inner reality and an outer event. The neurological gate that normally filters assumption, the critical faculty, the part of your mind that says, "But look at the current evidence," goes offline. What you assume in that window plants directly into the stratum of consciousness that Neville calls the subconscious, and the Vedas call the chitta, the mind lake, the deep reservoir of impressions that generates experience. Here is the specific instruction. Tonight, as you enter that threshold state, do not visualize a scene. Do not watch a mental movie of what you want. Instead, find the bodily sensation of having arrived. The physical signature of this already happened. The specific weight in the chest that comes with settled certainty. Not excitement. Excitement is future-oriented. Certainty, the felt quality of a fact. Let that feeling be the last thing your awareness rests on before sleep takes over. You are not sending a request. You are revising the default location of your awareness. You are making the desired state the ground, not the goal. Do this with the same consistency you would apply to any practice that changes the body. Not once, not when you feel motivated. Every night at the threshold, until the new assumption is the one that feels like home. The Gita calls this abhyasa, sustained practice, paired with vairagya, non-attachment to outcome. Not because outcome does not matter, because attachment to outcome is the signal that awareness is still positioned outside the desired state, looking in. The moment awareness is truly located inside the assumption, the attachment dissolves on its own. There is nothing to want when you already are. Here is what all of this resolves to. Neville Goddard, the Mandukya Upanishad, Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, and the Bhagavad Gita are not 4 different teachings pointing in 4 different directions. They are 4 descriptions of the same territory, mapped from different entry points. The territory is this: consciousness does not acquire, it recognizes. What you are calling manifestation is not the creation of something new. It is the return of awareness to a state that, in the Vedic understanding, already exists as a complete and living possibility within the infinite field of consciousness. What the Upanishads call Brahman, what Neville calls imagination, what the Gita calls the unmanifest from which all manifest things arise. You do not jump to a new reality. You stop insisting on the one that was never truly yours. The work is not effortful travel toward something distant. It is the dissolution of the false assumption that you are not already there. Neville said it in one sentence that most people in this space quote without fully feeling the weight of it. Creation is finished. Not that it will be finished when your desire arrives. Finished, complete, already whole. The version of your life you are reaching for exists as fully and as really as the one you are currently experiencing. The only difference is the resting place of your awareness. Relocate awareness. Everything else follows. That is the quantum jump. That is what the Vedas encoded in their deepest teachings. That is what Neville taught in every lecture he ever gave. Not a technique, a recognition. And once it lands, not as an idea, but as a felt fact in the body, you will understand why the ancient teachers kept returning to the same word for this state: home. If this shifted something in you, the next video goes deeper into Neville's specific use of the hypnagogic state and its exact parallel in Patanjali's eighth limb. Watch it next.